At Thanksgiving dinner, my wife's family handed out gifts to everyone except me. Her mother smirked and said, "Oh, we just forgot about you." My wife chuckled along with them. I smirked back and said, "That's okay, I didn't forget about you." Their smiles faded as they opened my gift and realized what it meant. It gets crazier the more you read this story, so hit that subscribe button, cause it's about to get wild. Thanksgiving at my wife's parents' house was never fun for me. I was tolerated, not welcomed. They made it obvious. I was the quiet guy in the corner who married their golden girl, the one who didn't quite fit in, but I dealt with it for her. Every year, smiled through it, ate the dry turkey, laughed at the recycled stories I wasn't part of. Her mom, her dad, her sister, and her sister's husband. They were all part of a little club I didn't have the password to. I gave up trying to belong years ago, but this year was different. Not because I expected better, because I came prepared. Dinner was the same show as always. Her mother bragged about the stuffing. Her sister showed off pictures of their new patio. I sat next to the cousin who spent the whole night texting. When dessert time came, her mom stood up and clapped like it was a school assembly. Before pie, she said, "We thought we'd do something fun this year. A little early gift exchange." She passed out presents, one by one. A monogrammed wallet for her son-in-law, spa day for her daughter, custom wine glasses for my wife. Even the grandkids got toys. Everyone was smiling. Everyone except me. No one handed me anything. I waited. Her mother turned toward me with that practiced smile of hers. "Oh," she said, "we just forgot about you." Her daughter laughed. Her husband chuckled. My wife didn't say a word, just sipped her wine and looked away. I smiled. "That's okay," I said. "I didn't forget about you." I reached under the table and pulled out an envelope. White, sealed, heavy. I slid it across the table to her mother. Her smile faded a little. She picked it up like it might explode. "What is this?" she asked. "Something small," I said. She opened it slowly, pulled out the papers. Read the first page, then the next. The color left her face. Her husband leaned over and grabbed it from her hand. He read the heading out loud. It was a transaction report, a list of hotel bookings, credit card statements, an invoice from a luxury hotel in New Jersey, billed under her name and a man named Antonio Suarez. The name meant nothing to them, but it meant something to me. I'd met Antonio a month ago. She called him Tony. He called her my angel. The room was silent. My wife stared at me, her mouth slightly open, but no words coming out. Her sister stood up and asked what the hell this was. I looked at my wife's mother and said, "I think you should explain that to your husband." More silence. Her husband flipped through the rest of the papers. There were photos in the stack too. Screenshots of texts. Pictures of her meeting Tony outside his apartment. One of them kissing at a rest stop. My wife's mom finally spoke. "Where did you get this?" "I hired someone," I said. "A friend. He follows people for a living." "He followed you." My wife looked at me like I'd slapped her. Her mom didn't answer anyone. Her husband was yelling now. Asking how long. Asking who Tony was. Asking if she used his money. She didn't answer. She just stared at me. Her sister started crying. Her brother-in-law was reading through the text messages with wide eyes. "You sent this guy money," he said. "You bought him a Rolex?" My wife's mom finally said something. "You don't understand." "No," I said. "I do. I understand perfectly." I stood up, put on my jacket. "Happy Thanksgiving," I said. And then I left. I didn't go back for dessert. Didn't answer my wife's calls. Didn't respond to the 13 texts from her sister. I went home, packed a bag, and drove 6 hours to stay with my cousin. I needed the distance. The silence. Because the truth is, this wasn't just about her mom. This was about my wife too. And what I found in her phone 3 nights ago. And the message she accidentally sent while half asleep. I wasn't just planning to expose her family. I was planning to leave her. But I needed the timing to be right. Because when she opened her gift the next morning, she'd find a folder of her own. And it would ruin her too. My wife didn't look shocked when her family started screaming. She didn't flinch when her mother cried or when her father started yelling. She didn't say a word when I walked out the front door. She just stood there, watching, like it was happening to someone else. That's how I knew. She wasn't blindsided. She wasn't hurt. She was prepared. 3 days before Thanksgiving, she left her phone unlocked on the bed while she went to shower. A message popped up from a name I didn't recognize. It said, "You sure he doesn't know?" I clicked it. I know I shouldn't have, but I did. And once I started reading, I couldn't stop. The entire thread was there. Her and Tony. Yes, the same Tony her mother had been sneaking off to see. Apparently, they weren't just sharing a hotel. They were sharing a secret. And my wife knew everything. In fact, she orchestrated half of it. She called it the game. Said her mother was pathetic and lonely. That she was too easy. She and Tony joked about how far they could push it. How long they could keep her hooked. My wife even encouraged him to ask for gifts. To bleed her dry, in her words. And as the weeks went by, they started getting bolder. Meeting more often. Pushing boundaries. They weren't hiding anymore. Not from me. Not from her mom. They believed they were smarter than everyone else. My wife even said it in one of the messages. "Nobody suspects a thing. We're invisible." But that wasn't the worst part. They were sleeping together too. My wife and Tony. The texts weren't subtle. Photos. Voice notes. Plans to meet up. And there it was. Confirmation that they'd been in my house while I was traveling. In my bed. On my couch. using my food, laughing at me in between. She told Tony in one message that she loved the thrill of being around me after, that it made her feel powerful, that every time I hugged her afterward, it made her feel like she'd won. I didn't say anything. I didn't yell. I didn't even cry. I took screenshots of everything, forwarded them to a secure backup. Then I logged into her burner email. The one she forgot was saved on the iPad. There were drafts, blog posts, journal-style entries, fictional, but close enough to real. Stories written in her voice about our toxic marriage, about how she was trapped, about how she was scared, lies, ready to go live at any moment. She wasn't just cheating. She was building a safety net, an escape plan, something to weaponize if I ever caught her. She had prepared for both outcomes. If she got away with it, she'd keep going. If she got caught, she'd make me look like the villain. She had a whole narrative ready. One where I was paranoid, controlling, angry. One where she had no choice but to cheat. One where Tony was her savior, not some slimy con artist who hooked two women from the same family. She was ready to burn my life down to protect her own. So I stayed quiet. I played dumb. I gave her nothing. I waited until Thanksgiving to let it all unravel. One piece at a time. First her mother, then her. The day after Thanksgiving, I sent her the divorce papers. She showed up at my cousin's door 2 hours later. No makeup, puffy eyes. She looked like someone had dragged her through a storm. She didn't knock. She just stood there, holding her phone, like I owed her an explanation. She said she was sorry, that she didn't mean to hurt me, that it got out of hand. She said she didn't know how to stop it. I didn't say a word. She asked if we could talk. I let her inside. She sat on the couch and started crying. Real tears. Or at least they looked real. She said she missed me, that she still loved me, that we could fix it. I handed her a flash drive. She looked confused. What is this? Insurance, I said. She plugged it into her phone. Opened the folder. The texts. The emails. The screenshots. Everything. She scrolled through in silence. Didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just read. When she reached the end, she asked one question. What do you want from me? Nothing, I said. I want you to walk away. Quietly. You sign the papers. You don't make a scene. You don't post. You don't talk. You vanish. She asked if I'd really go public. I said I'd already drafted the emails. To her job, her friends, her sister, her favorite brand she tried to be an influencer for. She knew I meant it. She left without another word. 3 days later, I got confirmation she signed the papers. No lawyers. No fight. Just a single line at the bottom. I agree to all terms. But this wasn't over. Because Tony was still out there. And everything I'd uncovered about him, I hadn't even used it yet. That was going to be a gift just for him. One he didn't see coming. I waited a week before going after Tony. Not out of fear. Out of strategy. I wanted everything in place. The timing. The proof. The fallout. He was slippery. The kind of guy who doesn't leave tracks unless you know where to look. But I had all I needed. An address, 2 burner numbers, and a list of every hotel he'd booked in the last 3 months. He worked at a gym 2 towns over. Not a trainer, not even certified. Just a guy who lingered near the entrance and sold overpriced supplements to bored housewives. I showed up during one of his afternoon shifts with a fake day pass and kept my distance. He was everything I expected. Flashy smile, inflated ego, too touchy with everyone. The kind of guy who thought being charming meant never having to take responsibility. I waited until he stepped out for a vape break. Followed him behind the building. He didn't recognize me until I said his name. Tony turned around, cocky at first, then unsure. I handed him an envelope. He asked what it was. I told him it was a present. Early Christmas. He opened it right there. Hotel receipts, photos, texts, a full breakdown of his affair with my wife and her mother. His face changed with each page. When he got to the screenshot of him in my living room, his hand around my wife's waist, he went silent. I gave him a second envelope. This one was thinner. A copy of a complaint filed with his gym's corporate office detailing inappropriate conduct, misuse of customer information, and a link to a private Reddit thread warning women about his behavior. All of it anonymous. All of it fact-checked. All of it impossible to trace back to me. He asked what I wanted. I told him I wanted him gone. Out of town. Off the radar. I wanted him to understand that while I wouldn't ruin him, I could. That this was mercy. A warning. The next time he tried to build a life off someone else's destruction, he'd remember this. He nodded, barely holding it together. I left without another word. 2 days later, he was fired. The gym sent him a formal termination letter. 1 week after that, the Reddit post started trending locally. His name started coming up in group chats and forums. His phone number was leaked, but not by me. Someone else connected the dots. Women started commenting. Old stories. Shared receipts. It snowballed faster than I expected. I stayed quiet. But I wasn't done watching. I kept tabs on him for another month. I checked his name daily. Set up alerts. Just in case. I saw the damage unfold. His online dating profiles vanished. His cash supplement hustle dried up. A post from a woman in a mom's group claimed he'd been banned from 3 gyms in the county. It wasn't hard to guess why. He tried to lay low, but he was too loud by nature. That kind of guy can't keep quiet. They always come back. My ex-wife texted me one last time. She said I didn't have to go that far. That Tony didn't deserve to be destroyed. I didn't reply. I wasn't destroying him. I was erasing him, taking away the weapon he used to pull apart my life. People like Tony don't stop until they hit something harder than themselves. I made sure he did. A week after everything died down, I saw his car parked outside my old apartment. He didn't knock, didn't get out, just sat there for almost an hour. Engine running. I watched from a cafe down the street. I wasn't afraid. I was curious. I wondered if he thought we might talk, if he thought I'd confront him, or if he just wanted to see what the damage looked like up close. He finally pulled away and hasn't shown up since. I don't know where he is now. I don't care. As far as I'm concerned, he doesn't exist anymore. And that's exactly how it should be. But even after all that, the story wasn't over. Because while the people were dealt with, the reputation damage, the attempted gaslighting, the whisper campaigns, they were already starting. I had one more fire to put out, and this one had my name on it. After Tony disappeared, I thought things might settle down. My ex-wife signed the divorce papers. Her mother vanished from social media. Her father stopped returning calls. Her sister stayed quiet, probably out of embarrassment. On the surface, everything looked done. But under it all, something was still moving. It started with a fake job offer I never applied for. A recruiter reached out with details that didn't match my resume. Then a strange LinkedIn account appeared, my name, my face, but with made-up credentials and subtle, damaging statements hidden in the descriptions. Then came the anonymous blog posts, written like diary entries from a woman trapped in a loveless, abusive marriage. The names were changed, but the details were familiar enough to cause damage. There were photos, screenshots from arguments, cropped out of context, text that looked manipulative if you didn't read the full thread. I tracked the posts to a burner email, one I'd seen before. My ex-wife had used it for her side projects. I still had access from the iPad she forgot to wipe. Inside the drafts folder were dozens of files, carefully written smear campaigns, scheduled releases, a timeline meant to poison me slowly, whisper by whisper, all disguised as survivor stories. It was her plan B. In case things didn't go her way, she'd make sure I couldn't start over. Not without people looking sideways at me. She hadn't just betrayed me. She had been ready to erase me, piece by piece. Reputation, career, even future relationships. She was building a version of herself where she was the victim, and I was the monster. I saw what she was doing, and I refused to let it happen. So I made a choice. No confrontation, no threats, just facts. I took everything and packaged it into a single file. I drafted a clean, professional email and sent it to her employer, HR, her supervisor, her PR contact, and one brand she was trying to partner with. No rants, no emotion, just links, proof, IP logs, timestamps, side-by-side comparisons, a summary of intent. I let the evidence speak. She was fired a week later. The brand quietly removed her from their tagged posts. Her LinkedIn changed to freelancer. The blog entries stopped. The fake profiles vanished. And the silence that followed was all I needed to hear. A few mutual contacts unfollowed her. One even reached out and asked if everything she'd been saying about me was a lie. I told them to draw their own conclusions. I didn't need to explain anymore. The truth was finally louder than the fiction. She tried to reach out one more time, called from a different number, left a voicemail saying I didn't have to keep punishing her, that we both made mistakes, that we should let each other heal. I deleted it, because healing is what I was doing. Her version of healing involved lies, manipulation, and trying to poison the well after she'd already walked away. Mine involved making sure I left nothing behind that could come back to bite me. A month later, I got a message from someone I didn't recognize. It was short, just said, "She's still talking." Attached was a screenshot from a private Facebook group, a vague post about a narcissist ex who tried to destroy her life. No names. But again, the details were close enough. I took a breath. I didn't respond. I didn't message her. I didn't retaliate. I just forwarded it to the lawyer who helped me with the divorce. He had already helped me prepare for this. We sent a cease and desist. Nothing dramatic. Just a quiet reminder that some things come with consequences. She took it down. After that, things finally calmed. I moved cities. Started over with a name that didn't raise eyebrows. I live in a quiet neighborhood now. I keep a low profile. I don't tell this story to most people. I don't rant about it online. But every now and then, when someone talks about being wronged and asks me how to handle it, I say this. Don't raise your voice. Raise the truth. Keep your hands clean. Keep your head down. And when you strike, make it surgical. Make it so clear that they can't even lie their way out of it. Because the best revenge doesn't look like revenge. It looks like peace. It looks like you moved on. It looks like you're living better. And they'll never know what happened. Only that you were there. And now you're gone. And everything they built on lies is crumbling in your absence. I didn't just get even. I made sure there was nothing left for them to weaponize. I made sure my name only existed in the truth, not the twisted stories they told to feel better about themselves. And if they ever try again, I won't shout. I won't plead. I'll just do what I always do. Quietly. Completely. And without mercy. Well, this is it for today. Comment your thoughts below, and I will see you in the next one. If you enjoy videos like these, be sure to check out my channel where I post multiple videos a day, finding the best stories on Reddit and turning them into long-form videos. If you have any fun stories about any occasion, be sure to let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your stories and maybe make a video about it. And finally, with that, I will see you in the next video.